somebody in the comments said that, that maybe we're jumping out way too far, right? There is, and I forget what it's called, but I talked about it yesterday. There is a basically thing where it says we overestimate what we can do in the short term, but we underestimate what we can do in the long term, right? And so my question for both of you is on that thought, how far away are we from being Ready Player One-esque?
Ooh. So I don't think we're too far away, right? We already have the suits. They already exist out there. You can put the suits on. You can feel vibrations, interactions. You can wear gloves, actually physically grab things with your hands, feel it in your fingertips. It's not being mass produced to people, but it exists, right? You see the little treadmill that you strap yourself to so you can walk in any direction.
Oh, yeah.
So that exists already as well. You have the goggles. So it does. We're pretty much close already there. Just the actual metaverse. When it comes to equipment, we're kind of there. It's just not cost effective to be mass produced to people. But one thing we know about technology is technology evolves quickly. And the quicker it evolves, the cheaper it becomes to make. So next 5 to 10 years, you can see this equipment become very cheap, right? We saw what the HTC Vive used to cost 4 years ago. 4 years ago when I bought it, the Vive cost practically $1,000. And it was the best. I don't know what it is right now, but I'm saying Facebook's is coming out at $400. It's becoming more cost effective, right? But that's pretty much the same price as a PlayStation or an Xbox, and practically almost everybody has one. So it's becoming more cost effective. So the next 5 to 10 years, by the end of the decade, we can see drastic changes in price and have this equipment mass produced. We're literally just missing the actual world, the metaverse itself, to be diving into.
Yeah. What do you think, Austin?
Yeah, I think it's closer than we think. I mean, look at like the internet revolution, where when did the first computer come out? Like 1980s. Like around then.
Mm-hmm.
So 1980s.
Well, the first personal computer. Yes.
The first personal. Yeah.
Obviously before.
Yeah. Personal computer. So the first personal computer was like 1980s. And then when did like the .com boom wasn't until 2000s, and then smartphones, let's call it 2010. So like that's 30 years right there to truly revolutionize the world. Bitcoin came out in 2009, so we're about 10 years in. So like 10 years into computers was 1990. Like we didn't have a smartphone. Like smartphone would have been absolutely ridiculous. So if you look at a 20-year horizon from now, and you look at the same trajectory that the internet did, I mean, why wouldn't this happen in the next 20 years? Yeah. I can't find an answer why not, which is unfortunate. It's people like the real world though. I'm a believer. I always vote for humans, which is probably a bad thing because they don't always follow through. But I'm always team human, and by betting on team human, I bet on human interaction. So I'm cautiously pessimistic about the metaverse.
I think that the timeline one is an interesting one because we've seen technology move at such a rapid pace at this point that I think it's going to be very interesting to see if it's more towards 5 years or 20 years, right? I'm inclined to think it's going to be closer, me personally, to 5 than 20. I think that 10-year mark to get to the point kind of where we're talking about. But I do think that we're going to see it, right? I think that life is already changing as we know it, right? And so I don't want to. I've got a fantastic. You know what? I'm going to ask it right now because we've still got more to dig into.
But wait, hold on. Before you jump into the next question, to the point that you're saying about the timeline, people need to wrap their head around that. You were talking about 5 to 10 to 20 years. This is not a linear progression. We don't need to linearly get there. All these things are happening parallel, right? The internet is growing parallel to blockchain is growing, the blockchain technology, the metaverse, video games, right? The gaming world is growing parallel to those two worlds. Cryptocurrency is growing parallel to all that. All these things are coming together. The hardware for this to be used is growing parallel to all these. It's literally just coming to a merging point where they all meet together. And now they can combine to become this thing. It's not a one step, then next step, then next step. It's all happening at once. And that's why it's going to happen a lot sooner than we think.
So then